Now our minds tend to assume that our isolation from the firm hand of God depends on the free will granted by Him, that He does not override our will. Though this is true, its truth is bracketed inside a larger equation. And nearby another assumption, that bad humans burn in hell forever, and within this idea, another which proposes that refusal to believe in the redemption or unawareness of the redemption bestows upon the death of the organic body the immediate judgment of isolation from God and His locality, and even this notion, with some half-truth dynamics, falls short of the full equation. So we must here consider whether the fact that Christ died of all humans implies restoration for all, or does the will of the humans still claim a legal existence of its own, an involuntary redemption. And we must overcome the thesis, in regard to the restoration of all things, a thesis which simply says that the goodness of God and His mercy is incongruent with eternal torment. There may be one concept or dynamic missing in our theology, which is the nature of the human, a dimensional nature. Is consciousness and being of self merely a floating thing? It is not. The human is more like a verticality. Imagine a vertical thing that imposes inside the abstract layers of existence. When God made the human, like Himself, He made a being, which has a particular imposition inside existence, a way of relating. The verticality, however fallen and broken, retains the innate condition of itself, which is that it must own everything of itself. I know this is a very abstract concept. To reach for some understanding, it may be helpful to see this human or verticality, which now must relate and impose, as a thing which has gravity. It pulls things by the demand of self, by simple being in existence. The human is a graviton verticality. It has something in its being and living which has less to do with free will, but more to do with responsibility. The human, as a being that imputes itself, is bound by the imputation, which means it must own itself, therefore owns everything, full responsibility, which it, in our figure of gravity, pulls things onto itself. A point in space-time must, by the physics of being, relate to all things as it is, and all existence must relate to it as it is, otherwise it is not or not itself, and as it is in its fullness, the fullness demands it has responsibility for itself. An easier way to understand this is to imagine that when the organic body dies, the leftover human and his consciousness must in full imprint into the layers of the afterlife, and take with it its fullness and its demand, and another is not allowed to stand in the way of this. Even God will not stand in the way of another human. It is less about free will, it is more about the structure explained above. The verticality, without the anchor of the physical body, is at the mercy of its full self, and if it has not entered a new birth into another, it must remain itself and all of itself, even if the self is full of darkness. So God does not torment humans in hell. It is residual structures that do it. And hell does exist, or perhaps better, places that might as well be hell. The only way the imprinted consciousness can now be free, and the only way Yahweh can restore the thing, is to let people back into the new birth into Christ, through the physics of existence itself. A novel idea. He must roll up the heaven and the earth. He physically destroys the old heaven and earth by rites of the Lamb slain before the foundation of the worlds, and as time itself, or the past, is entangled with space-time and other layers, the past and the vertically and its insistence can be freed to return to the heart of the Father and the Creator. As it is written in the Bible, "You will roll them up like a cloak, and they will be changed like clothing. But you are the same, and your years will never end."